Hello, kiddies. It's your old pal John Kassir, the voice of the Crypt Keeper. And I hope you get to check out my good fiends at A Decade of Horror on the PSVG Podcast Network. I hope you love them like I do. They're a scream.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
What's up, ghouls and ghosts? Welcome back to PSVG's A Decade of Horror, the latest podcast on the PSVG Podcast Network, where we relive 2014, one scary movie at a time. My name is Donnie Reese, and I'm joined by the PSVG Scream Team, once again, by Lucas.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm doing all right. Little tired, getting some caffeine in. Gonna amp it up for you guys right here.
Is it stay caffeine if you've mixed alcohol in it? Like, do you still get the desired effect?
I think it's kind of a roller coaster at that point. Like, it starts out and then the alcohol hits just like it did right there, and then
The alcohol, huh?
yeah, and then you just lay down and you're tired, but you can't fall asleep.
Gotcha. Josh Bones, how you doing, my man?
Ooh. I got a black cat in the room. I said boo.
Scary.
I'm ready.
What black cat? What do you mean?
Oh, she's taking a piss right now. You want me to zoom the webcam?
No, we don't. We don't. This is exciting. This is our first episode that we're recording after having spilled the beans. Like, other people know, that the show is happening, but this is the first time we get to record knowing that other people know. So,
Speaking of spilling the beans.
oh gosh.
Ew. It was 1 and 2.
So let's go ahead and get into it, and let's start talking about 2014. Josh, why don't you give us those fun facts?
The year that was
Always so
2014. I know. I do struggle making these now. The more I'm doing them.
They're kind of depressing.
It's a horror movie podcast. I can see how he's kind of steering into the curve there.
Yeah.
Well, I'll give you a warning before scary or terrible things come up.
Okay.
Happy tops the Billboard charts.
Yay!
Oh, yeah.
Hey, I know, right? No. Okay, scary. Ready? There goes the black cat. You see it?
Mm-hmm.
I do now.
Okay.
Yes, I do.
Horrific news. Transformers: Age of Extinction is #1 at the box office, grossing over $1 billion.
$1 billion.
Yikes.
Over $1 billion. Probably huge in China.
Too bad it spent $1 billion making all those Transformer CGI effects. So
It's just one Transformer that they covered in different coats of paint.
Oh,
If you've seen the Transformers movies, they all look the same.
I have never seen one.
I've seen the first one, and
The first one is the better of all of them.
Oh no,
I don't. I didn't have Transformers. Like, I don't. That kind of escaped me.
Yeah,
Well,
it's like a generation before you, I think.
Kind of.
Like a
It's
decade
okay.
before you.
it's okay because these are unrecognizable versions of
They really
all
are.
of the Transformers you
Shia
love.
LaBeouf was in it, right? That's like
Yeah,
the
Yeah,
thing I
that's
know.
true.
See,
First
okay.
over, yeah.
So I know about it, but I also know that a lot of people apparently didn't like it, so I didn't go out of my way to go find it.
First one was good. All the other ones, bad. Giants win the World Series. The Seahawks win the Super Bowl. The Spurs win the NBA championship.
Beating the Heat.
Beating the Heat. Beat the
Right.
Heat,
Wow.
as we chant in Boston. LA Kings take the Stanley Cup. And Germany wins the World Cup. Yes, it has been 4 years. We are back in the World Cup
Cool.
from whence we started. Mazda recalled 42,000 cars. This is horrific news. Mazda recalled 42,000 cars because the yellow sac spider would climb into the gas tank and form a web inside, blocking airflow. This was the second recall. The first was in 2011 for the same exact reason.
What?
Wow.
Those yellow sac spiders love a Mazda.
What model, or was it multiple models?
I don't have that information.
Okay,
That seems
that's so weird.
Yeah, why would they do that? Like, there's no
Isn't
bugs
that
in there or
creepy?
something. Like,
Isn't that creepy?
I guess.
Well, blocked airflow.
Well,
so
I
they
know,
had
I
to-
get that, but like, what is the purpose of the spider being there?
Oh,
That's what.
Yeah, like, why is it?
Yeah, like,
why
why is the
attracted to that?
spider there?
Yeah,
Usually,
that's a
they
great
put webs up in places to eat stuff.
Well, with 42,000 cars, I guess it could potentially be in a specific part of the country. So maybe where it's cold.
Hmm.
I don't know.
Fair enough.
Interesting.
They need to
okay.
put that in Grounded.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, no kidding. Put a
Here's-
Mazda in there, and it's the hardest part of the game.
Here's another horrific fact. In 2014, bots outnumbered humans on the internet for the first time in history, making up 60% of all web traffic.
Oh my gosh.
That's why you couldn't get an NES Classic. I
And
remember.
it has only exponentially increased.
I was gonna
from
say
there.
it's never gonna go back down, right?
Of course not.
Never.
It's the Matrix.
In stroke news, John Travolta says Adele Dazeem at the Oscars instead of Adina Menzel. Which I can only assume he had a stroke while he was saying that.
Oh boy.
On the bright side, How I Met Your Mother ends its final season. in
Terrible
2014.
ending. You know, here's the
Terrible
funny thing.
ending.
I never
If you
watched
watch
that
the
show.
deleted ending, it's much better.
I watched that show maybe 3 or 4 years after it went offline, like off air.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I just
same
caught
here.
it. We lived here. I lived in this house when I watched that show for the first time. My wife was like, "You really should watch it." And here's the thing: I've probably rewatched the whole thing start to finish like 4 times since.
Yeah,
I love
me
that
too.
show. It's a great
I love
show.
that show. If you're a fan and you haven't YouTubed the
I have.
alternate ending,
Yeah.
you should, because it's a much better, satisfying ending to the show.
My wife
that's
loves
just
that
in
ending.
comparison
I don't
to-
love that ending as much either.
How did that
I also
how
don't
did
think
that
it's
come
great.
about? Yeah.
Which part?
the alternate.
The alternate ending. I guess they just filmed 2 different
Mass
versions.
Effect fan outrage.
Ah, okay.
Or, I mean, it is 2 creators, so maybe one wanted it to end one way and the other wanted it to end the other way. I
Yeah.
don't know. Or the network was like, this tested poorly. Film a different one.
Quick before they notice.
You chose poorly.
Yeah, yeah. That's a great How I Met Your Mother quote, where they parody.
Quote something
The Last
else.
Crusade. That's actually the whole last season. Takes place in one setting. Terrible. The iWatch is revealed. Great. This is depends on how you feel and if you know what this is. The fappening happened.
Oh.
Yeah, we're all guys here. We know what it is.
Yeah.
Spooky news. Malaysia Airlines Flight 370 goes missing.
Oh yeah, I remember that story.
Yeah, that'll
Wow.
pop back up next year.
Oh no.
Some more horrific news or horrifying news. It is the start of the Flint water crisis.
Yeah.
It's
Still
close
going.
to home up there.
Still
Yes,
going. Yeah. Yeah. I was gonna say. I mean,
Yeah.
we don't feel the effects of it here, really, as far as I know. But
Sure.
yeah.
I won't lie to you. The rest of this stuff is not pleasant, but it's
Okay.
almost over. The Ferguson riots occur after the shooting of Michael Brown in Ferguson, Missouri, proving that not much has changed in 6 years.
So this is crazy because that feels so much more recent than half of the other things you've read, and they all happened in the same year.
It's just more
Yeah.
topical, I think, right now.
Oof.
Notable deaths for the year of 2014 are Philip Seymour Hoffman,
Oh.
the Ultimate Warrior,
Wow.
H.R. Giger, Casey Kasem, Robin Williams,
Yeah.
Don Pardo, and Joan Rivers. And to end our 2014 fun facts, fun quote, you put those in quotes, manspreading is added to Webster Merriam Dictionary.
Oh gosh. Yeah.
Okay.
Man spreading right next to
Ta-da.
mansplaining.
I don't know that's in the dictionary yet.
I don't know how to get us out of here. I don't know where to go from that.
You don't go anywhere. You just spread those legs right
Let's
open and
just
relax.
man spread ourselves while we talk about. You want to talk about the 3 highest grossing movies?
Okay. Before we
And
do,
horror.
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
either of you think one of your 3 choices are on the top 3?
No. Oh, wait, hold on.
Don't look it up.
2014?
The point is just to guess.
No, I
Well,
don't think so.
I think
No.
one of mine could be. Maybe. but we'll see.
I
I
guess
almost
we're
gave
about
it
to
a
find
guess.
out.
It's too early to
No,
make a guess.
I'm finding that is a very large theme in all of my lists, is that they have nothing in common with the other lists that I make and present to you
Yeah.
right now. So for 2014, I am familiar with some of these movies via you. Like, I know you watch some of these. So that is, I know of them through that, but
Cool.
other than that, let's start with number 3. Dracula Untold.
Yep.
Wow.
Wow. Guys, all right, listen here. This is a PSA to anybody that's listening to this. Pick better movies. Like, when you're paying for money to watch movies, like, buy better movies. Why?
Lucas, you had this information. I don't know that this is true. Was this part of their attempt for the Universal? I don't want to call it Dark Pictures because I know that's not what it's called.
Rehabbing.
Yeah, like revamping. Yeah.
No, I don't believe so. Because I don't think it has anything to do much with. It has more to do with like the Vlad, the Impaler story. I believe.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it.
No, I have.
It looks medieval.
It is.
Honestly.
And
Gotcha.
I will say this, like, I wanted it to be better than it was. Like, it looked cool. Like, I was kind of digging it. I have watched it. It's just not good. And I am fascinated by each and every week that we do this podcast. And you read to me these movies that made $500 million, where, like, my indie movie is way better, and it barely, like, pays the bills. It barely keeps the lights
Doesn't
on.
even make $1 million. Yeah.
It's bothering me a lot.
I don't know. This is pretty much all we learn in film school, is that mainstream sucks and they don't like good movies.
But it's not always the case, right? Like, you have good movies. You have, Titanic and Interstellar and things like. There are popular mainstream movies that are also good.
Yeah. Yes.
But it seems to be like in the horror space, it's like a yin and a yang. Like, it couldn't be more wrong. Like, if there's a horror movie that's popular, it's bound to be bad.
Well, it has a 40 Metascore, which is not bad when you consider
For
the
horror on the
genre.
horror scale.
Yeah, the horror scale tops out at like 60. So
So a horror 4 is an action 8.5.
basically, yeah.
I do have a fun fact for it, just because out of morbid curiosity. They did do reshoots to tie it into the Dark Universe film series.
Wow.
It wasn't filmed as that, but it looks like there was a different Dracula they were trying to do with Sam Worthington, directed by Alex Proyas, that got shelved, called Dracula Year Zero. So they decided to spin this into Dark Pictures.
I've already explained my bias with vampires, but is Luke Evans, right?
Yeah. Featured actor in Exhausted, Fast and Furious
That's
podcast.
true. I'm not going to lie to you. I think he kind of looks like an awesome Dracula. I was from
He looks like a Dracula.
from the poster and everything. I was like, this looks good. And then I watched it and I was like, it's not good. Yeah,
He looks like a Dracula.
it's not good.
Sorry, Lucas, for derailing you.
No, it's fine. Vampires are just boring.
Also, Dominic Cooper from Preacher is in it.
Okay.
Great TV series.
Number 2.
Number 2. The Purge Anarchy.
Nice.
$72 million. So basically, what, $15 million more than third place? 50 Metascore. So flip of the coin. You like it or you don't, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
This is what number in the series at this point? What number is this?
2?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say too.
Really?
I was trying to
I think
remember.
it's the second one.
I thought it was the third.
No.
It's on my short list. I didn't get to watch it though.
It's hard when they don't number them. I find it impossible.
Spoilers. Sorry. I'll
Jeez.
I'll
Go back and edit that out.
Because I saw Donnie about the comment. I was like, don't comment on it.
So this was the first. This was the first one that they went out of the home invasion feel, right? You were
Yes.
talking about that in another decade, or another year of the decade, that This is where they started going off the rails, right?
Yes, actually, yeah, no. This was the one where the first one was with Ethan Hawke and it was in the home. This is the one where they actually kind of go outside and you actually get what I consider to be the better part of the Purge premise, whereas like this just anarchy. Not to just quote the title, but it is. This is a city in anarchy, right?
Yeah.
And they do all the cool Purge stuff, and I think that's where that series needs to reside. Although they always. So, all right, I'm gonna go ahead and give you this. I love the Purge series. I like watching it. I think it's fun comfort food. This doesn't like crack my top 3 because I don't necessarily think any of them are like really great. It has like this Batman Forever type thing that they always do with those movies.
Like a little bit of camp.
Yeah, like there's always like, like neon glow sticks and it's like part anarchy but half rave. It's like, what the hell is happening?
Right.
I want like the Purge to be like the Strangers, and it's like it kind of gets there, but it never goes there. So while I always love watching them, and I was there in theaters for the Purge Anarchy, that's part of my money, and is way better than Dracula Untold. I think there are better movies.
Gotcha. Number 1, according to mainstream audiences who went to watch this and paid hard-earned dollars, they would agree with you. In the year of 2014, number 1, the spinoff of an already existing world, Annabelle, making $84 million and netting a 37 Metascore.
So I wanted to talk about this one. This one definitely did not make my list. I want to make sure that I have the right one. I'm sure I do. This is the first one, right? Because you have Annabelle, you have Annabelle Creation, and then Annabelle Comes Home. Yeah, the first one, not good. It's really not good. It's quite awful, actually.
I think you had said something about it, and I was like, oh, I'm going to try to watch that.
It's like, skip that
and
one.
I wasn't able to get through it. And you're like, it's okay. Yeah, it's not great.
I love Annabelle Creation. The prequel, the second one, that one's fantastic. It's probably my favorite one. I also like Annabelle Comes Home for what it does for the Conjuring universe, although I understand it gets a little fantastical. The first Annabelle tries to be like this in-home creepy, spooky thing, and it's just really tropey, and it's really tired, and it's at times I think it's overdone. I watched this in a drive-in theater for the first time because anytime I get really excited for a new horror movie, you better believe I'm trying to watch it at a drive-in. Like I'm like, where can I find a drive-in to watch it? Like to me, that's like the supreme way to experience it. And I didn't leave before the end, but I distinctly remember wanting to. It's just like, no. This is a huge letdown. Huge letdown.
That's a bummer.
Yeah.
Yikes. Well, their Metascore the Metascore on that would reflect that. So no surprise there, I guess.
I'm a little surprised. I thought so I don't ever look up the things because I always want to be surprised. I thought one of my movies had a really big marketing campaign that I thought would have put it on one of the best sellers, but maybe it just wasn't popular enough. List. Yeah.
I guess we'll find out when we talk a little bit about what we didn't get to after we get to what we're going to get to.
Sure. I'll kick us off, and I will say that my number 3 movie of 2014. And before I do, I just want to hear 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. I had 14 candidates for 2014 alone. I have watched over half of them since the last time we've recorded. I have been...
Wow. That's a lot of movie watching.
This recording, like us recording these episodes, these were the hardest ones I've had to do to date because I feel like these are far enough that I don't always remember so much about them.
Yeah.
But current enough that like my memory of them still serves like how I think of them, like best to worst.
You almost don't want to like rewatch them because you're like, I remember enough that
I remember liking it, but I don't recall all the details. And so I had a lot of candidates on this list, but I rewatched a few. Hang on a second. I'm going to see here. Nope, that's next year. Okay, so I'm good. I wanted to be sure what I was about to say.
I was going to say real quick, too, we're starting to really run into the mixture of this was released in film festivals and stuff like that. That
a year
really
or two
happened
before theaters and
Yeah, so it gets a little bit murky these days in
Yep.
these next few years. So, but please continue.
My number 3 came out October 21st, 2014, and is The Taking of Deborah Logan.
Whoa.
Oh.
Exorcism, right?
I'm sorry?
Exorcism horror?
No.
Yes, sort of. It's possession-ish, but it's...
Possession. Sorry, that's what I wanted to say.
Can I give you a high five and say that's my number 3 as well?
Wow, our first time
Brother.
we've actually ever agreed on one, right?
Yeah,
That's
I think
awesome.
so.
So it stars Jill Larson, who is like 20 years All My Children lady. And here's the thing. Josh, why did you just smack yourself?
I'll tell you when I get to my turn.
Okay.
Because I am an idiot.
Okay. So Jill Larson, she does a tremendous job, I think, carrying this movie.
Yes.
It is extremely good premise at the start. So it's found footage.
Yes.
It's this Blair Witch thing. But at the start, it's not like a horror movie. You are watching this old lady who has Alzheimer's. And it's an exaggerated form of Alzheimer's, but that's what makes it terrible. That's
It's
what
the
gives you
fear
the
of-
terror.
It's like the body horror genre
Yeah.
of like getting old. It's like
Yes.
this is all coming for all of us.
Oh man,
eventually.
I was rewatching it leading up to this episode, and I told my wife, I was like, "Old people are scary." And she was like, "Do not say that on the podcast." And it wasn't necessarily that I was saying that because I think that. It was more like one of the things that horror does that I've heard directors and stuff take is they take things that aren't scary and they give them a scary premise that turns them scary. That's why you see a lot of cute little girls and toys and dolls and things like these are things that aren't scary at first, and then you make them scary. And
You
let
wanna
me tell you
defy
something.
expectations.
Like if you see an old person doing something they shouldn't be doing, like walking naked in the woods or standing on the kitchen counter, it's scary because you're like, what the hell's happening? Like when your grandma isn't like, the stereotypical like cute, loving grandma, it gets a little terrifying. And and in this movie, I think the thing that really made the movie a lot of fun was that it wasn't necessarily horror to begin with. It was kind of, it almost comes off like almost like a faux documentary of Alzheimer's.
Yeah.
I'm sad to report that it completely falls off the rails at the end. Like that's one of the things that but my memory of it didn't change when rewatching it. I 100% see that it falls off the rails. It totally goes exorcist possession thing. It gets really dumb. And I think they ruin a lot of the credibility that they had at the beginning. But, I've said it before and I'll say it again. A lot of horror movies do that. So I'm not going to ping this one too hard on it. It doesn't change the fact that Jill Larson just carries this movie. She has these like ticks and these stares, and she like turns her head, and like you see her like staring at somebody through the window out, and she kills it. She crushes it. She's terrifying. If I came across her in the middle of the night, I would be scared.
Well, there's parts in the movie where, because like you said, it's found footage or first person camera feeling, they'll be looking out the window. Like at one point, the guy is going to hang a cross on the window just because he starts to suspect there's some devilry going on.
Mm-hmm.
And then he starts to turn, and she's standing right there. And she just has this look where it's kind of like when a nice person suddenly turns mean and you realize they're actually just wearing this mask of being nice, but they're horrible on the inside or something like that. That's kind of that feeling where she's
sells
just
it.
looking at you like she's going to eat you or something.
She sells it
Yeah,
incredibly.
for sure. I totally agree with you that this falls apart at the end. And like you said, I don't knock it too bad. And that's why it hit my number 3 as well. It had a really good premise at the beginning, like you said. And I don't even mind the idea that a demon is looking for the weak, like weak and infirm, like children and older people whose minds are going and stuff like that. That all was fine. And even the lore that they start to set up was okay. But then it starts feeling rushed, and suddenly she's taking a child down into a cave.
Rush is good because it feels like they had like 3 movies they tried to just pack into one. Like it really picks up speed at the end.
Yeah, it really does. And that's kind of where it just starts losing all credibility to a certain degree.
I want to say something
just
to get Josh interested in here. her mannerisms and her expressions are not all that unsimilar to like Toni Collette's in Hereditary.
Really?
A lot of the same feeling. And to me anyway, like when I see her stare, when I see her give you like that anguish or that anger look, I'm like, yeah. That's the same thing I think about Toni Collette. Like I think she does that as good as anybody. And Jill Larson crushes it.
Cool.
How about you, Josh? Number 3.
Well, I just had a revelation.
I did everything
I
wrong.
messed up 2014 in a bad way.
Oh no.
So, number 3 wins. This movie gets number 3 by default, and I apologize. But number 3 is going to go to Tusk.
I knew it was going to show up.
Oh no.
I knew it was going to show up.
It was a 4 to 5 for me. And I don't even necessarily
Out of 10, right?
think that it's a great movie. I want to clarify that.
Okay.
It's on my list of films. There are some big movies I didn't get to, and I'll be honest, it became streaming availability, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
The first movie I wanted to watch, and don't mention it if it's in your list, is A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night, based on conversations we've had, I think over Discord, and I just couldn't find it anywhere, at least on the 18 streaming services I have. I couldn't find it. And I didn't want to buy it. I don't have Shudder. I should really get it.
You need Shudder.
That's
And then I also noticed there was 2 different versions, and I didn't know which one to watch. So I just hesitant to pull the trigger. So maybe Shudder seems like a no-brainer for me just to pick up for the next few months. So I'll probably do that. That being said, there were other
Decade of
movies.
Horror brought to you, sponsored by
Yeah.
I'm going to work on that.
That'd be amazing.
Let's send them a tweet. So I still think, just as Red State kind of stands on its own as a Kevin Smith quote horror movie, this definitely fills that genre more.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost I want to say parodical. That's not a word, but it's almost parody on horror.
Yeah.
To a degree, to the opposite degree, right? It's not parody on horror in the funny way. It's parody on horror in the over the top. Why are you watching this way?
Yes.
But I still appreciate Kevin Smith's attempt at filling this movie with humor and satire and horror. I don't hate it. And I know that's not, I'm not telling people to go and watch it, because I guess is what I'm saying. For me, out of the movies in 2014, this is number 3 for me in the movies I've seen that I can say if you're a horror fan, it's still worth a watch, to be honest with you. I know this is not glowing, and God forbid Kevin Smith ever listen to me say this, but Justin Long really does deliver an incredible performance regardless of how crazy it is. And I forget the name. I should pull it up because he's a great actor.
While you're pulling that up, I will just say that
Michael Parks.
Oh yeah, he was
in
in
Red State.
Yeah, I was gonna say he was in that other movie.
He does an incredible job in the film.
So it was my turn to pick a movie, and I've been really trying to. This was at a time I was trying to pull my wife into watching horror movies that aren't that scary, and so I was like, why don't we go see Tusk?
Oh no,
in theater. Let's go watch that in theater. So not only did she not like it, she was stuck watching the rest of it, literally getting glares like, "What is this, Lucas?
And it's a rough start.
Pull me to?
It's a rough start to that movie.
It's a bit.
They kind of just throw you right into it too.
Yep, and so
you have to deal with Harley Quinn acting at the beginning, and Johnny Depp's daughter acting.
Yes,
what is happening?
What is going on with that character? Exactly. So that was a rough. That might have painted my view on that movie to a degree. So I need to go back and watch it, but I knew there was no chance it was making my list. So that's a for later time.
This probably isn't on any of your list, but I did notice there is a movie called The Wolves, directed by the voice actor who plays Solid Snake, starring Jason Momoa. And that's crazy.
I feel like he'll be in anything, just about.
Tusk makes my number 3, but only because while you guys are talking, I realized my number 1 is for 2015, and I put it in 2014.
It's so
I'm going to
such a
take
pain.
the if you have nothing nice to say, don't say anything,
Don't say anything
at
at
all
all.
with regards to Tusk. So
Ooh.
That's totally fair. 100% fair.
It is one of those movies that you either like it or you hate it. I think there's no middle
I'm
ground.
solid right in the middle, Lucas. I don't
I
love
just
it, I
said
don't
there's
hate
no
it.
middle ground. You
yeah,
have to
and
either.
I'm definitely on one polar end of that, one extreme polar end of that. So Lucas, number
Wow.
2.
Yeah, I'll go. I'll take a number 2 here. Now I'm going to need
Okay.
some help. Hopefully, you guys have seen this movie because I did not, in my limited time, I wasn't able to get to this one, but I do remember liking it. The problem is I don't recall exactly what happened because I also watched it alongside another same-ish movie, and that is As Above, So Below.
My number 2.
My number 2.
Hey, where's Simpatico? Look at that.
So,
Cool,
let me
good.
chime into this, and I'm going to let you get back to it. But
Sure.
Metacritic 38.
Yeah, I know.
This
just goes to
movie
show you.
was taken through the mud. Like, it had a huge marketing campaign, and people went to see it in theaters. And apparently, everybody hates it, but me was basically the takeaway that I had because I watched it in theaters and I thought it was great. And I rewatched it last weekend, and I think it's better than the first time I watched it. I'm like, man, you watch the second and third time, it gets better.
Man,
Yeah, and this is the first time I've seen this film also, or doing this podcast.
okay. I don't remember anyone talking about it, honestly. I just happened to find it on Netflix, and I had watched Descent a little bit right
Apropos
before that.
comparison. Yeah.
Yeah,
It has a
so
lot of Descent vibes.
Yeah.
exactly. That's why I can't really distinguish what exactly happened.
Would you
but
like
I
me
know-
to chime in here?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Okay, so I did watch it last week, and I sat down and I wrote some notes as I do, and here we go. So it is, I gotta scroll over, it's too many damn things. So it was shot in the real catacombs of Paris. They actually
That
shoot it
seems
there,
obvious.
so they're actually there, and all like the skulls and everything that you see, like that's legit. You can go
That's
there
all
and
it.
see all of that.
Dang.
There was very little use of props for that reason. So a lot of it was just like natural filmmaking and storytelling in terms of like the environment, which I think part of me wanted to say like, how cool is that? And how much I would like to see more things
More of
do
that.
that instead of being so
Yeah.
improvised and everything, like to actually set like a real setting that is actually scary. If I ever went to France, which I probably never will, but if I ever did, I would absolutely want to go there. That'd be the reason I would want to go. My wife would be like, let's go see the Eiffel Tower. I'd be like, let's go down to the catacombs.
Let's go underground.
So, and it also like tells why like the crew have like no cell phone coverage and all that stuff because they are legit underground. But this is basically a parallel to Dante's Inferno. And as they go deeper and deeper and deeper, you go through the
Yes.
different levels of hell and you start going through all that. And it has like this like national treasure type puzzle stuff and you know, like kind of like this Indiana Jones type stuff as you're going underground, which I think a lot of that for lack of a better word, like lore, a lot of that idea, that premise has been established in film. So I feel like it was easy to buy into. To be quite honest with you, I think this movie does a lot. I think it's incredibly deep. This is a dense movie that I think is quite frankly over the heads of a lot of people that watch it. Like if you're watching it just for jump scares and be scared, like it's got that, but there's so much more to it than that. If you
Going
go
on,
and
yeah.
try to pull like an analytical breakdown of As Above, So Below, like prepare to read. There's tons, like with the imagery and the nods and the nuances and the parallels to Dante's Inferno and how they differ and like the stone and the healing and you know, like turning on people's characters and grief and loss of her father. All of it is in there. It's all there, but it's all hinted at. It's not explicitly told. They don't hit you over the head with it. That's why I think this movie gets better with age, like a fine wine. If you pay attention, like me, I've watched it last week when I watched it, was the third time I've watched it. The first time I enjoyed it, and I remember being upset that everybody hated it. I was like, I hate that this happens to horror movies. I go watch one, I think it's awesome. People pan it, and apparently it's terrible. And I'm told how much it's awful. I watched it when it came to streaming. And that was when I started getting into like I want to like look up this stuff and learn more
Like
about it.
cool.
Exactly. Last time was actually when I sat down and I started pausing the movie, taking notes, pausing the movie, taking notes. And when you start getting into that realm of the movie and you start finding like little, like holes to fall into, man, this movie's got all of that and then some. Like I said, I just think for the movie going crowd and the initial critics, I just think it was a little bit more than they wanted to chew on. And you know what? Maybe it's a fair criticism that the movie doesn't explicitly explain a lot of it. It's all like environmental. You got to see it. It's all on the wall. It's symbolic. It's all of that. They don't tell you what it is. They give you, I even think one character, I can't remember exactly the character. I'd have to pull up. I didn't write all my notes here this is like my 2-paragraph takeaway. One of the characters, I believe, let their brother or cousin, friend, or somebody drowned. And that's like a whole Dante's Inferno thing and everything. And you get like one sentence to explain that to you. And that's it. So maybe they could do a little bit more storytelling there. But considering the actual production, the film, the quality, and the story they tell you, my first time watching it and when I didn't understand all that was going on, I still loved it. I still thought it was great. And I love the ending because the only way to get out of hell is to what? Go through it. And they do. As above, so below. They go all the way. I was like, this is a fantastic horror film. It's definitely on my shelf. This is shelf worthy in my opinion. You got to absolutely have a physical copy of this movie because I think it's great.
You want to say more, Lucas, before I
was just going to say, if I buy any more Blu-rays that are just red, The Taking of Deborah Logan's red, Evil Dead is red, As Above, So Below is red. It's like, it's going to look like Nintendo Switch shelf over there. See, and that's the thing is like, I remember like feeling that there was more to it than just some people go down underground and then walk around in some tunnels and get lost.
Yeah.
I think that's the layman's takeaway. Like, why are they just walking around this whole time?
Yeah, exactly. And if you just, put the movie on and then start checking your phone and doing that stuff, like you said, one sentence, you miss it and you don't understand why that person is there, where this person came from, what's going on. And maybe, it begs that you pay more attention to it so that you get more out of it when you watch it. And I'll definitely be rewatching it after talking about it by the time we get to the end, like our wrap up episode. So.
Yeah. So for me, this was a movie when I made my list, like when we do our lists, what I do is I literally just pull up the wiki thing for years of horror and I write down every movie that I'm interested in, right? That I either have seen or haven't seen. And this is a movie that's always escaped me. I don't know why. Maybe it's marketing. Maybe it was. I really love the guy. He's been in so many things I've watched before. I like him as an actor a lot. So I don't know why I didn't see this one. Ben Feldman. So I pulled it up on Netflix, right? And I looked at it because I'm trying to find it on what it streams, and it's on Netflix. So the tagline for Netflix is "A beautiful Tomb Raider and her crew." And the second I read that, I cringed. I was like, "Oh no, this is such a terrible start." And then you know what? I started the movie and I was like, "Damn, if they weren't wrong, that girl is Perdita Weeks. That girl is beautiful." And I was like, "I'm in." British accent, sold. Red hair, sold. Like, she checks all the boxes, and now I am doing what Netflix did, and I am. I'm just. She was a great actress. I really enjoyed her character in this film. It definitely was like Laura Croft's horror film,
kind of.
And I don't know if that was intentional or not, but what I did like was it had the Descent vibes. It had Blair Witch vibes, like OG Blair Witch. It really felt, and then once you know what's happening, you can't unsee Dante's Inferno vibes. It's
totally there. All of it's there.
And then you realize, like, you're literally going to go through hell. And to be
even
honest,
the characters that they run into, like the guy that like mysteriously disappears and everybody hates, that's all in Dante's Inferno. That's the thing is, I feel like, if you didn't know that, you're like, oh, this is stupid. Which then saying that kind of makes you look stupid.
Yeah. There's one thing, and spoilers for As Above, So Below. The only thing that kept this movie from being my number one was one specific scene, and it was near the end when she just so casually goes back to get, like, and I say casually, obviously there was like, but she had 5 minutes, I think, to traverse what was about 25 minutes film time.
Sure.
To get the reverse Philosopher's Stone. I love the Philosopher's Stone was in it. I thought that was fucking
And
cool.
I agree that I think you could have left that out and it would have maybe even been an improvement.
Yes, that's the only thing that really kept me from putting this as number one. Also, when they climb out the sewer, the manhole at the end, the way they filmed that was genius.
Yeah.
Like it really looked like they were exiting from.
Yeah.
It looked like they were going to fall through the earth.
Yeah.
It was very well filmed.
Yep.
Even the way the actors exited, they must have rehearsed that forever to get that perfect. They nailed it.
I love that too. It is a
great
good
ending.
ending. I was going to say I would knock it because PewDiePie's in it.
Oh, was that PewDiePie?
Yeah.
I didn't even realize it.
No.
I didn't realize it the first time I played it the first time I watched it, because the first time I watched it, I didn't even know who he was. It wasn't
one
until we
was he?
started doing podcasting and stuff that I was like, no
Did
way.
he survive? Was he the guy who survived?
No.
Okay,
no,
good.
no. Yeah,
Was he the creepy guy?
I can't remember.
Okay,
No,
doesn't matter. I don't even want to
I think
know
it's
who he
just
is.
one of the people that they passed. I didn't realize it until I started doing notes for this. I think he's just one of the people they passed in there.
Man, when you see that, when you see
Hang on a
the
second.
ritual,
Let me pull up my notes.
I was gonna say because he's
Yeah.
not in the cast.
Let me pull up my
the
notes.
Short list.
when you see
Okay,
the
hang on.
ritual with those people,
I'm
That was
mistaken.
great.
Fun facts wasn't that he was in the movie. He promoted the movie by
Oh.
actually going in to the catacombs and filming
Too
and
bad he
doing
didn't
stuff
die
during it.
Oh,
Yeah.
maybe that's why he his channel changed drastically. He went down there,
The
came back.
devil
up.
worship.
He's
He
been
found some. He
changed.
found.
It was
some
one of the
Hitler
things
youth
I wrote
gear in
down
there.
to bring up on it. I'm glad I pulled up my notes. Yeah. So when I found that out, I was like, that's crazy. And because I didn't, like I said, I didn't know who he was until we started doing PSVG and started talking about streamers and stuff.
Streamers.
Yeah.
Your favorite topic.
My
Ah.
guess. I'm not going to spoil anything, but my guess is that your number ones is a movie I haven't seen.
Really?
Potentially.
That'd be fun.
Possibly.
Yeah, I have a feeling.
So we're all on number one now.
We are.
I'll go first if you want me to.
As I say, I think we're back to
You
you.
started, yeah.
My number one movie for 2014, and to be honest with you, I don't think it's very close, is The Babadook.
Yeah. Haven't seen it.
We
I couldn't
have
find
the
it.
same
I couldn't find it.
list.
We do have the same exact list. That's crazy, Lucas.
It was nowhere to stream, so I couldn't see it.
Yeah, that's
Um,
true.
November 28th, 2014, by Jennifer Kent, who just recently did The Nightingale, which I watched. I didn't like as much as The Babadook. The Babadook, I believe, is one of the best horror films I think I've ever watched. I've never sat down and actually tried to make a list of my favorite movies, but if I did, I would imagine The Babadook is extremely memorable. I didn't rewatch it this past week because when I thought of 2014 and I started doing it, once The Babadook was, I was like, oh, well, that's it. Because
Yep.
it's one of those type films for me that I think it's just incredibly memorable in so many ways. The story, for one, the way the movie is shot, its presentation is incredible. It's got this, it was meant to be black and white. I'm not sure if you guys knew that.
didn't know
They
that,
wanted to
no.
do black and white, and I can't remember why. I think they couldn't afford it. Do you know that they actually had to raise money from Kickstarter to get this movie going?
I didn't know that either.
That was another thing I looked up. They did a Kickstarter. They raised $30,000 on Kickstarter after they got a $2 million investment thing to even make it. And after they were making the sets and everything, they realized that I think the black and white was going to be too expensive. So they went with a very monochrome look, which I actually think serves the movie better. Everything is very gray, blue, dark, blacks.
You notice inside of the apartment, when you really start looking at it, it
Yeah.
almost, it looks like it is monochrome, like you say, but then you realize, oh, it's just been painted this way.
Yep.
And really comes to a good effect.
I have that. Here are some fun facts that I wrote about it because I actually did dig into this one because I want to bring some things. It grossed $10.3 million off its $2 million investor budget. Jennifer Kent went on record saying it was exploring the reason that she wrote the script the way she did. She wanted to explore parenting from a real perspective, as opposed to the parenting stories that we see in rom-coms where everybody just loves their kids all the time and all that kind of stuff. She said, "No," and this is her quoting in an interview at a con. Now, I'm not saying we all want to go and kill our kids, but a lot of women struggle. it's a very taboo subject to explain like the stress and the realities of being a parent and motherhood. And it's not a perfect experience for women that people portray it as. So that's kind of where that they do often. So that's kind of where this movie comes from. So I'm going to try to refrain from spoiling it too much for you, Josh. But essentially the gist of the movie is you have a mother and son who've lost husband and dad in an accident. This movie has a lot of parallels, or I don't know, parallels may not the right word. This movie evokes a lot of similar feelings that I had while watching The Omen or The Shining. There's a lot of that going on in this movie where the son starts acting out and he starts getting crazy. Like he's making weapons and getting in trouble at school. He's doing the drawings, right? All the kind of normal stuff. Mom is dealing with that. Mom is in grief. She's like still traumatized over losing a person. She's depressed. So she's not in the best state to be a good mom either. A lot of her son starts coming up with this Babadook thing after they find a book, right? And he's scared of Mr. Babadook, which is a great iteration of the boogeyman. Like what a great manifestation of the boogeyman. And to think that my number one movie is a movie about the boogeyman. That's literally what it's about. It's like the oldest tale ever done, but it's never been done like this, like the Babadook does it. So you actually go through this period of where it's like, is he really being haunted, or is she going nuts? Like, am I crazy? Is he crazy? Or are we both crazy? So that's where you kind of get like that Shining stuff, like what's real, what's wrong. And then the movie kind of plays out from there. So I won't go into all of that, but I absolutely loved it. I think this is one of the best scary movies I've ever watched, because I think it's meaningful in the sense that the characters have they have a story to tell that's beyond the terror that they're experiencing, but the terror they're experiencing is equally terrifying. It's not that it's not scary. You know, a lot of art house horror isn't scary. This is actually also scary while you're watching, like, it's a really gripping story, and the way it deals with grief and stuff, I think it's powerful. That's why it was my number one. I have a lot of movies. I said I have 14 that I put on the list that I think qualify as candidates. None of them touch the Babadook. The Babadook could be on a short list of best horror movie of the decade, not just of 2014. Like it holds its own against any other movie I've seen.
It's one of those movies that you would put right next to like The Shining or any of those other classics, where it almost feels like a fairy tale at that point, where you have that takeaway and you just remember so much of it. And I think I know some people get bothered in horror movies when it doesn't feel like there's a reason or like a takeaway, or when the violence is not caused by anything necessarily. You know what I mean?
I'm going to bring this up. I'm going to bring this up in a future episode. So I'm actually happy that you brought this up.
Oh, okay. But yeah, there's actually a tangible reason, even if it is fantastical, as to what's going on. You know, you get answers. A lot of people hate when films don't answer things, and that can be good. It can be used to a decent effect, but you know, sometimes people want to know what is going on, and it'll be relatable, I think, when you watch it and everything clicks and you're like, is that what I think it is? Or you start thinking about what's going on here. I think it'll click with a lot of people. And I had seen this movie twice now. Once around the time it first came out before I had kids, and then most recently within the last 2 weeks. And it was a good film then. Having watched it, it wasn't the best. I watched it with friends. It wasn't the best way to sit down and watch this movie. But I knew it was a good movie. I liked it. Rewatching it, I loved it. And having had children now, I can 100% understand, like you said, the mother and child relationship is 90% of this movie.
Yeah. And
you can completely understand, once you've been there, how realistic and how you can see the descent happen.
I've never asked my wife like what her favorite scary movie is, but if I had to guess, if I was on that dating show where you guess like your spouse's answers, I 100% would put the Babadook
dating
down.
game?
I think she loves this movie to death. That was my almost takeaway from it. Like, she was so enthralled into it when we were watching. It's one of the few horror movies that really grabbed her and wrapped her up in it.
In the butt.
I will
Sorry,
I will end my thoughts with the fact that the other impressive thing about this movie is that it isn't outrageously gruesome or graphic. And to be as memorable and terrifying and relatable as it is without, I don't even think it's rated R. I'm not 100% sure. It might be, but I wouldn't be surprised if it wasn't, because it is not a particularly it might be for language.
I think there are adult themes, but it's not over the top in any way, shape, or form. I think it's rated R, but
if you get grossed out, I don't think you will here.
No, no. This is a great selection for people that think they don't like horror. This is almost a perfect selection.
Yep, I agree.
If we're playing Jeopardy, it is where is the strangest place you've had whoopee in the butt? That's from the Newlywed Game.
I'm glad that we've given that comment some
what is
some
happening?
backstory.
Oh, some backstory.
That's what I'm here
Okay.
for.
Right.
That's what I'm here for.
Josh.
The Babadook is a movie I tried. Man, if someone's not getting shot outside, I don't know what's happening.
They're about to.
I tried. I really wanted to watch the Babadook. It's a movie I never saw, and I've heard so many good things about. I really
thumbs up.
suspected this would be the number one for you guys.
You've got some work cut out for you right now.
Don't worry, I got a nice long list of movies to watch. So my number one is a movie I hadn't seen before we started this podcast.
Oh,
it does not have a happy ending, which I think adds to horror films. And it is Oculus.
This is the one I wanted to get to.
I really thought this was going to be a stupid horror movie. I really did. Everything that I saw of this movie when it first came out, it didn't appeal to me. It seemed silly. It stars Karen Gillan from, you would know her as Nebula from the namesake of my cat, my black cat, and Notorious Redhead, who's not bald in real life. She stars in this movie. I should probably pull up.
I know her from You're the Worst, which I absolutely adore. That's one of my favorite TV shows. I love that show.
Katie Sackhoff is in it, who I adore. Starbuck from Battlestar Galactica. You also have one of the dudes from Empire Records, and this kid I don't know who plays Dick Grayson / Nightwing on DC Titans. He plays her brother. So Katie Sackhoff and, oh my god, if I had a gun, Katie Sackhoff and the dude from Empire Records, they play Karen Gillan and Brenton Thwaites' parents. You don't ultimately know right away that they're telling the story at two different time periods. So if you watch Haunting of Hill House on Netflix, this is what this movie is like. They tell the story very similarly. It's a time jump between when they're children and when they're adults. What the basic story of this is, Karen Gillan's father buys this antique. I don't want to say Bavarian, but it's something similar to that, style mirror, and he puts it in his office. His parents, they just move into a new house. They're well-to-do people. It's fireworks. I mean, it's September. Why not fireworks? So they move into they're well-to-do, so they can pretty much afford to buy these fancy things for their offices. Well, this is a possessed man. Let's just listen to fireworks for 10 minutes.
Do you want to pause? I can pause.
I don't know. Okay, so fireworks have been paused. So basically this is a haunted object type. You guys are familiar with this, obviously. We've talked about Annabelle and Conjuring and all those things. What I really liked about this is, I guess, spoilers. Should we just talk spoilers?
Sure.
I don't mind.
Yeah, I mean, it's a movie podcast. If you're listening to a movie podcast, especially a retrospective,
7-year-old,
you're going to have some spoilers.
So essentially, this mirror has this female demonic figure that is associated with it, It basically wreaks havoc in this family, and you live it multiple different ways, right? You're living it as Karen Gillan as a child, and you're living it currently where she's at. So essentially what happens is, to summarize everything, is the father eventually kills the mother, and there's a lot that goes on in between. So if you watch it, I'm not really ruining that part. The kids kind of witness all this stuff happen. They try to do things, and the neighbors are just like the friendly neighbors, like, "Hey, Bob, your kids are telling me that this is happening." He's like, "Oh, ha, 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 crazy kids, let's go golfing next weekend." "Okay, Bob, see you later." So like they try and they can't get away with it. But this the dad is so infatuated with the mirror, he never leaves his office. The kids have to like fend for themselves until finally the father tries to kill the children and they have to defend themselves. So they kill the father. The brother ends up going away to a mental institution because he shot a gun at his dad and killed his dad. So of course he goes away for the crime. She's been living her life this whole time he's been locked up. However, she's been obsessing about this mirror and destroying it. So the plot is, she's now an adult who is married, and you find out she put like all these plans together scientifically, and she goes through them in it, which makes it like super cool. How they describe it, like, I accounted for heat loss. I have cameras and thermometers in every room, and if something happens, I'm gonna get this ghost on camera. And eventually she goes to get her brother as he comes out of the mental institution, and you would think there's some type of compassion, and she feels bad because he's been locked up his whole life, but she's like, from get-go, she's like, "You're gonna help me, right?" And then she's like, "Oh, by the way, I inherited the house, so let's go back to the house." He's like, "I don't want to go back there." Like, you totally sympathize with this kid the whole time. A lot of crazy shit happens. It is very enthralling. It's very well done. I guess the not so great ending is, like, without spoiling what happens, is this kid who went away for his entire child life and half of his adult life ends up going back to jail.
Oh,
yeah, and that's how the movie ends.
bummer
Like,
ending.
he goes back to jail. He gets arrested and taken away. And I'm not going to fill in the blanks because I really think the journey is worth it. But to tell you that, and you can kind of go through the movie with that in the back of your head, it could even add a little bit to it. But they really do some interesting things I haven't seen in horror movies before, with how they play with time and time manipulation, and how they kind of handle spirits and maybe spirited artifacts. I thought it was great, and it really surprised me. I really thought As Above, So Below would have been above it, but it really kind of stole the show, so to speak.
Nice.
That's pretty cool.
I wanted to get to it when you told me that Karen was in it, but I didn't get a chance. It's on my short list, so that'll be work that I do post-show. I'll be tidying up and watching that one, because when you first brought it up, and I remember, I think I remember the box art or something, because I was like, I know that movie, but it was Mirrors. The other
Do you remember the movie I didn't see because of the trailer where Amy Smart puts through her?
Yep, I remember that movie. What about any of ours that didn't make our top three? You got any honorable mentions?
I can tell you what I put on my list I didn't get to see.
Sure.
Deliver Us from Evil.
Yeah.
Life After Beth, because I love Aubrey Plaza.
Yeah, of course.
And The Purge Anarchy. Those are the only ones left on my list.
Okay.
Like I said, or I don't know if I said it on the actual podcast, but a lot of what I thought was released in 2014 got pushed to 2015. So much of that got pushed. Some of the other, well, why don't you list anything that you had that you didn't, that just barely missed?
I was going to put Paranormal Activity, the marked ones. I like that one. I've got a couple outliers. You already said The Purge, and I've brought that up too, so I won't talk about that one. I'm gonna talk about two that I actually would recommend. They just didn't crack my top three. One of them is called The Sacrament, produced by Eli Roth. It's basically like a horror movie documentary found footage take on like Jonestown, the actual events of
I've
Jonestown.
watched this. Yeah.
And, you know, like we talk about all the time, like with zombie movies, we're like, well, but the people are the most terrifying things. That's basically what this movie is. It's just kind of like the fear of groupthink and how far, you know, humans can go by mob mentality and kind of, you know, riling up together. So that's kind of what that is. And then the other one that I actually love, it's more thriller than horror, but it's definitely a horror movie by the end of it. It's called Cheap Thrills.
Cheap Thrills.
Have either of you seen this?
Nope, but it's
I don't think so.
It has David Koechner in it.
Really?
Whammy! Yeah, it has him.
Yeah.
Okay. I want to call it an indie movie. It's got to be like a low budget movie. Here's the idea. These two guys are down on luck, and like one of them just lost his job. Like they're at the bottom of the bottom. He's got a brand new kid. You know, like he's about to be evicted. He loses his job. I was gonna say, like, it kind of reminds me a lot of like that Michael Douglas movie, like where he just like snaps. You remember that movie?
Yeah, falling down.
Falling down.
Falling down, and like he gets out of his car. But it's crazy. So they're at this bar and they come across David Koechner and his wife or girlfriend or whatever, and he's loaded. He's filthy rich, and he basically just starts paying them to do outlandish stuff. He's like, you know, like that girl at the bar, like just go smack her ass. I'll give you $50. So they do it, and like he gets slapped, but he pays them $50. And then like they get thrown out of the bar, and he's like, "That's bouncer. If you hit him first, I'll give you $500." So he hits him, and he gives him $500. So they go home. The party keeps going, and it starts to take a horrific turn, where he start, you know, like if you imagine like Fear Factor the movie or something like that, like it starts to kind of go that way.
They eat spiders.
I feel like this is a whole genre of film all of a sudden, because there's been a few of these where it's like it's some sort of game like that where they raise the stakes. There's one called The Brass Ring. Would You Rather? Nerve? Wasn't Nerve kind of like that?
Ethan Embry in this,
I
Donnie?
don't think I've seen that one. I don't know who that is.
From Can't Hardly Wait. Was he in Can't Hardly Wait, Ethan Embry?
Yeah. Anyway, like it keeps going further and further and further. They actually try to, I don't want to spoil too much of the movie, but I mean, again, it's an old movie. They try to rob the guy, only to find out that he's like a jujitsu master, and he beats the shit out of these guys. Right? And like his wife is all into it, and ultimately the turn of the movie is he kills the other guy for the money. He kills his friend for the money. And when he leaves, the husband and the wife had a bet on who they could get to kill the other first. And that was the whole thing was the game. And like the movie ends, like he's holding his infant, like he's had his finger chopped off, he's been beat to death, and he's holding his infant like in a pile of money, and his wife walks in and she's like, what just happened? I mean, it is a thrilling ride, and it is definitely horrific. It only does what it does, but what it does really well. And you know, I think it's worth mentioning. It was pretty good.
Does he cut that pinky off?
Yeah.
Oh, does he have sex with that dude's wife?
Yeah.
Oh man, this trailer looks good.
Yeah, that happens. There's a lot of
Wow.
It's kind of like Funny Games in a lot of ways. It even has parallels there too, or similarities.
Cool, Donnie.
It's pretty good. You can watch it for free on Vudu, I think.
On the list.
I watched it. I don't remember how I watched it. I watched it a couple years ago. Like sometimes I will just go, I think on whatever app I have, and I will just go to the horror section and just pick on something. And I honestly think it was just David Koechner. And I was like, I know him. And I just watched it. And I was like, whoa, why does nobody know about this movie?
Let me make a correction real quick. The Brass Teapot, not The Brass Ring. Sorry about that.
Cool. Added to the list.
The only other movies we missed that were on the list of high-ranking or grossing movies was No Good Deed, which I didn't see, and Ouija. Ouija.
That one's going to come up later.
Uh-oh.
Because it didn't release in 2014?
No, because the sequel is awesome and the first one sucked.
Really? Oh
my.
Yeah. It's good stuff. All right. Well, I think that's it. We got to pick one. Josh.
I'm okay to let the Babadook win because I assume when I watch it, I will feel the same as you guys.
Okay.
I think you will too.
You to watch Oculus so we can revisit. I don't think it will.
I don't
based
like
on
this.
your glowing reviews for Babadook, I don't think it will pass it, but I'd be curious if it would make your number two.
I don't like this because I firmly believe that on the next episode, I'm going to have to fight Josh. And I don't like that he has all this goodwill now. He's like, wait a second.
We're just over webcam.
It's suddenly become politics where we're making concessions and now we're
Johnny,
like, well, if
you
you
were
agree to
probably-
I was
this,
sitting here, I'm like,
I'll-
damn it, he's got me over a barrel. This was just an all elaborate ruse.
probably
That's the
fight
thing. Josh is like,
next
it's just a
time.
ruse to get.
2015 is going to be tough, I think. I've got a lot of movies. Well, not
I
a
do
lot,
too.
but comparatively speaking.
I do too. My three, I think,
Unless you're
stand
gonna
out
tell
from
me
the
that
rest.
Krampus can't be number one. I think we're fine.
But yeah, I'm ready to fight. All right, so that's going to do it for us here on this show. We hope you stick with us the next episode as we're already talking about 2015 and how great it's going to be. But until then, this is the end, friends.
Hi, I'm Chucky, and I'm your friend to the end. Heidi ho!